Welcome to Her Life Unscripted podcast, inspiring burnt out, stressed out, and stretched thin women to embrace the unscriptedness of life. Hosted by Anna Osborne.
Hello, ladies, and welcome to Her Life Unscripted episode 49. It is wonderful to be here with you on the last week of March, which is totally crazy to me to think that we're already almost through the first quarter of March. So I'm still in shock. I'm sure a lot of you are too, but I just want to welcome you guys to the show. And if you're a new listener, I am so glad to have you here. And I want to kind of get you guys acquainted with the show a little bit and with me. We are actually wrapping up the month of March. Is all about community. And so we are in the process of wrapping up that month. It'll be our last month with that theme. And I'm really excited for today's podcast guest because I had the privilege of interviewing her twice, which sounds kind of funny, but when we first interviewed, the sound quality of our interview, unfortunately, was not what I wanted it to be to highlight her because she's just absolutely amazing and such a wealth of information and knowledge. And so she was gracious enough to come back for a second interview, which is always so humbling when people are willing to do that with their time. And so you guys get to meet Lindsey Taylor today. But before we do that, I want to share with you guys a little bit to let you know that today, or actually this week, is our last week. If you are interested in attending the Shine Retreat, it is our last week for the early discount. So I do encourage you guys to go ahead and grab a hold of that, head over to the shineretreatforwomen.com, and March 31st is when that link expires for the discount price. So do be sure and do that. If you guys are interested in attending, we are starting to fill up, which is super amazing and also humbling and all kinds of amazing things like that to really see something that I've always dreamed of doing really come into play. I've done lots of workshops and retreats here at my office and in the community, but doing an offsite one just adds an extra level of excitement to it. And especially with just the group of amazing women that are going to be there. So if you have not signed up, I do encourage you to go ahead and do it. It's funny, we started advertising this retreat at the beginning of March, and part of me was like, oh my gosh, the retreat's not till September. What are we doing? That's so far away. And then I realized as I'm looking at my own personal calendar that I have things booked until the end of the year, which is nuts. But I think it just speaks to how busy we get. And especially as women, man, our schedules are constantly in flux. Funny enough, my kids graduate. I guess it's a thing, from preschool in June, and they'll be starting kindergarten in the fall. And so we're planning a family vacation, and I am trying to find the dates of when they're done with school and realizing they've got like a little parent ceremony graduation thing going on. And we're talking late June, and I'm trying to like pin the teacher down of what day she's going to do it so that we can finalize our vacation plans and make sure that we don't miss that. So, I mean, that's just how busy things get. So I do hope that if you guys are interested and you think, you know what, September is a ways away, I don't need to worry about that. We have capped the event, so it is going to sell out. So I encourage you, if you're interested, put it on your calendar now, register now, shineretreatforwomen.com, so that you do not miss out on this amazing event. And then I also want to highlight one of our sponsors. Like I've said in the past couple of weeks, we were so just lucky to have four amazing women, four amazing business owners step up and say, we wanted to help support your retreat by giving some money to be a sponsor for the event so that you guys can reduce the cost for people to attend. And so it did actually help a lot to offset the cost for attending the event. And so I'm just so grateful for all the women. But specifically today, I'm excited to share with you guys today Lisa Branco. She's actually a friend that I've had since elementary school, and we have kept in touch, and she just is doing amazing things in life. She's a mom. She works full-time in the ag community where we grew up, and it's just a very, very inspiring, positive person. But she's also become, in the last few years, an amazing Stella and Dot consultant. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the jewelry, I went to my first Stella and Dot party probably 3 years ago. And I thought, oh my goodness, like what am I going to buy at a jewelry party? That I don't buy myself nice jewelry. And then I bought my first piece of Stella and Dot. And I have to say that I have had to pace myself since, because the quality of their stuff is so amazing. The way that they empower their women consultants, their female business owners, is just something I can absolutely get behind. And it's, what I love is the versatility of their pieces. So there's, a a necklace, say you spend, $50 or $80 on a necklace, and you can wear it like 4 or 5 different ways. So it's just absolutely amazing. If you're interested at all in Stellan.jewelry, I do encourage you guys to reach out to Lisa. Her email address is in the show notes. It is lisambranco@gmail.com. And like I said, her email address is in the website or in the show notes. So do reach out to her, because I would love for you guys, if you're interested in buying some Stellan.jewelry, to really support her, since she was so generous to support us. So that is kind of some of our housekeeping. But what I want to do is change gears and introduce you guys to the amazing Lindsey Taylor. Now, I met Lindsey actually online. She and I are both part of this online moms group. It's for kind of one of the local communities that we live in. And I saw Lindsey consistently showing up with just a generous, generous heart. She is a doula, and she has just this great knowledge and just amazing heart for her work and passion for her work. And I just saw her just being so generous and loving to people, and not criticizing and not judging, and just lifting them up. And I thought, wow, I really want to get to know her. So I reached out and said, hey, can we get to know each other? And she was so generous and hopped on the phone with me, and we got to talking, and we've just kind of built this friendship out of that random kind of introduction. And she has been so generous to support the work that I'm doing with Her Life Unscripted. And I just am I think she's amazing. So that is who we are having the privilege of talking with today. Like I said, Lindsey is a doula, and she owns Tailor Made Doulas, and she is just so passionate about her work. She was a mom at a young age, and you get to hear her talk about how her story of really kind of navigating those early years of being a young mom and also childbirth really inspired her to help her friends and then turn that into an amazing, amazing career. So without further ado, I do introduce you guys to the wonderful Lindsey Taylor. All right, I am so excited to have Lindsey Taylor of Tailor Made Doulas on the podcast today. She was gracious to come on a second time because our first recording was crap. Not because what we talked about was crap, but because the quality of it was not up to the par that I know you lovely women would want to listen to. And so Lindsey was so gracious to come on again. And so we're recording again. And I'm actually interested, Lindsey, of how much will be very similar to what we spoke about before and how much will be kind of where we've evolved in getting to know each other. So Lindsey, welcome to the show. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm super excited. And it's funny that you said that, because I was like, driving my kids to school this morning, and I'm like, I don't remember anything that I said. So this is all organic for you.
Yes. Awesome. Well, it was brilliant. So we're just going to be brilliant again. We can't help ourselves.
Awesome.
Fantastic. So I kind of gave a little bit more of your formal introduction before we started recording, but do you mind kind of sharing a little bit about your work and also a little bit about what a doula is for folks that have, kind of no frame of reference for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually had no idea what a doula was when I started doing this work. And it was just kind of a natural transition for me. I had my babies when I was younger. And so I started helping out my friends when they had their babies. And at one point, a doctor just asked me and said, "Oh, are you a postpartum doula?" And I'm like, "No, but what is that?" And so it basically was what I had been doing, with all of my friends and family and people in the community. And so I decided to really dive into postpartum doula work. And that's where I got started. And so for me, postpartum doulas, we basically have, 3 different things that we evaluate with families. And the first one when we walk into a space is the mom and the baby. And so we're looking at all of their needs mentally and emotionally and tangibly to see what needs to be done for them. And then we kind of move on to the family and what needs of the family need to be met. And, who needs to eat, who needs this done, who needs that done. And we're just really focused on the family. And then the third thing that we're looking at is the home. And we truly feel and believe that, as women, whether we're working moms or stay-at-home moms, there's this sense of peace and comfort that comes from knowing that our homes are being taken care of. So dishes and laundry and, just running the vacuum really quickly, like making sure that, mom is focused on baby and bonding and the family is cared for, but the ship is still moving forward. And so that's really what postpartum doula work is about. And We are newborn and mother care experts. We have a ton of education in that portion of their time. So, we're not just coming in as a friend or a family member, which is how I got started. We're really coming in as experts in the field and people that we can be emotional about our work and, give to them emotionally, but we're also very emotionally removed, which allows us to be non-judgmental and not feel, not kind of project any of our own opinions or choices on the families we're working with. And that doula work really leads into all kind of different avenues. And so the most common doula work that we hear about is with labor and delivery. And in terms that most people would be able to connect with, I just call it like what my grandmother would have called a labor coach. So I think it's evolved and there's a lot more to it now, resources and education within it. But that's the best way to kind of understand what we're doing. We're coaching them emotionally, physically, and providing comfort measures through that labor and delivery process.
Fantastic. I love that your journey into finding work that you are just so passionate about. And for those of you that don't know Lindsey, I actually met her online and we're part of a mom's group together. It's a big mom's group. And I just saw her posting with so much encouragement and no judgment, just encouragement, just, letting moms know that exactly where they are is a normal place to be and encouraging them on their journey. And I was just so taken by it that I actually reached out to her and said, like, I want to meet you. Like, can we get to know each other a bit? Because I just felt like her support was so authentic. And so I think it's amazing that you found that it's kind of this blend of you found your work, but your work found you, right? In terms of kind of your process with it. But thinking of that, having your children kind of younger than, the other folks in your life, what was that journey like of being maybe, I don't know, I'm assuming kind of was there a sense of feeling kind of alone with it because you didn't have people to relate to, or what was that process like?
Yeah, it's actually a still evolving process. And I think that's why I can connect so much with, what you were talking about tribes and community, because when I was going through that, it was isolating, and not isolating just because I was the only one going through it, but isolating because of the judgment and, cultural issues and just kind of all of this stuff. And so it was an isolating experience to go through motherhood at a young age. And that's a decision that I made and that I own. And it's a part of my story, but it's been interesting along the way, because you think like, oh, I went through being a teenage mother and, and then you kind of come out of it, but you don't, because I'm always ahead in my timeline.
Yes.
And so it wasn't until I really dove into my business about 2.5 years ago that I truly began to find a group of people that I would consider my tribe or support, or people that I could connect with. And so that never really happened for me on the mom side. Mm-hmm. It happened for me on the womanhood side. And now that I'm around an amazing group of women and connecting with them, and those women have become my friends, and through working with clients and being a part of their tribe and their community, we've been able to connect on a motherhood level, which is where I'm just now beginning to get that. So I've been providing this support and talking about it for women for, years, but, authentically, I'm walking the same journey that these women are walking.
Well, and I think that speaks to why it radiates from you, right? Because it's saying like, I am here to support you, and I'm also finding my way through it, which I think is, we do attach to people that we feel like they get it because they're living it, versus, they're so far removed, or they don't think they need to walk it with us. And so I think that that's such an important part when you're thinking about tribe or village, is that it's got to be people that are okay with you being in the trenches along with them.
Yeah. And it's funny because, as somebody who owned a business, when I first started, I thought that I had to be put together, and I thought like, nobody's going to want to talk to me if I'm in the trenches. Like, I have to be out of the trenches and like an expert, for them to want to come talk to me. But there's so much realness and so much more connection in the authenticity and the ability just to be raw and real, and like you said, walk the trenches with them and just be with these women at any stage in life. And so I have, people that will talk to me and my business partner when we get together, they're like, we just love you. And we always say, they're like, so sorry about my home, or they make comments. And my motto is just come as you are. I am the most come as you are person that could possibly be. Just be with me, sit with me, talk with me. Nothing else matters. Just be you.
Yeah. Oh, and I so connect with that. I specialize in working with couples, and I'm also married with kids. And so it's so funny when I will, mention offhand about, times my husband and I have gone to couples counseling. People are like, what? I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't trust therapists that aren't also working on themselves. And yes, I'm an expert in relationships in the room, but that means that I may have kind of awareness of things that I need to work on in my own relationship, but it by no means that we don't have, issues to work through. And so that piece, I think, is always interesting when people are taken aback by it. And so it's okay, I need to make sure that that I am also walking this journey because I believe in it so deeply. And if I had this attitude that my relationship was perfect because I'm a couples therapist, I'm walking, off a cliff, versus saying my relationship is so important to me that I will continue working on it to make sure that it's the best version that it can be. And that is, how I want to live my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know that I would have a comfort level of talking to somebody that didn't believe that, or that thought they were higher, than myself, or, because then that's where I feel like the judgment portion would come in.
Right. Yeah. Right. You've got it all together, but you're expecting me to be vulnerable and tell you when I don't have it all together.
Yeah, totally.
Exactly. Right. So, we're obviously all month we're talking about this idea of community, and I'm just so glad that we were able to record our interview today and incorporate it into that series. But the thing that I thought so much about, kind of in preparing for our interview is this idea, this importance of assembling our team. And you just stand out as somebody who is that team organizer, right? Especially as within how I've seen you show up on the online groups, but also kind of, how you run your business is you are a factor in a family assembling their team to navigate that transition of bringing baby home and getting through delivery and all those sorts of things. From a professional standpoint, why does it feel so important for folks to have a team kind of in terms of the work that you do? Why is that so important?
I think for me, the first thing that comes to mind is just culturally. Culturally, in my profession, I'm working with people, in labor and delivery and, postpartum. And culturally, those things have taken a back seat. And they're not honored the way that they are in other cultures, or that they were, 50 years ago. And so I think it's important to be diligent about creating an experience that you're hoping to have, but then also having that support team because of the reality that things don't always go as planned. And so I think that that's why it's so important to have a team put in place, is because let's just recognize from the beginning that culturally, we're going to be celebrated with friends and family, but workforces and, all of the other factors, finances and things like that, there is not a lot of leeway when it comes to those things. And so, I think that's why I believe in the team so much. And to put together your team, we talk with clients, literally, clients will call us, whether they use us, or clients even from other states will call and say, this is, this is where my family's at. This is what my hopes and aspirations for my, delivery and postpartum are. These are the questions that I have. Or they call and they say, I have no idea. There's so many people on different ends of the spectrum, but being able to talk to them about their life and what their hopes are, and then helping them put together that team. And sometimes that team means they have a postpartum doula, or they have a labor doula. Sometimes that means that they need more education. For some families that we work with, we're okay, let's meal prep and get those meals together. It's all about discovering the discovery process of where is your family? What are your goals? Who are the tangible support people? Who are the emotional support people? And where to go from there. And we believed in it so much. We put together a postpartum survival guide, and it's a download that you can have for everybody. And basically it takes them through that discovery process of all of their support people, and it asks all of the tough questions. And then it has a space for them to list all their resources. So for someone like you, like it says right there, who's a therapist, who's a doctor, who's a chiropractor, who preps meals and sells them. And it really is just a step-by-step guide for them to discover and put together their team of people for this stage of their life.
Oh, I love that. Well, and I think that, so like you said, there's people all end of the spectrum of whether they've got a clear plan or clear expectations of what they want to look like, or they're coming in saying, I don't know, like, let's just do this,
Right.
And so, but what I like about it is that I think the hardest part about assembling a team is that you have to ask, right? You have to ask for help. And that's really vulnerable. And especially if there's counter messages that, I'm not going to say if, because there's counter messages that as women, we should be able to do it all, or that this expectation that, women before us have done it, so therefore we should know how to, that being able to ask for help, especially as we transition into motherhood and parenthood, can be really, really difficult. There's so many fears that come up around being that vulnerable to say, I don't know how to do this.
Mm-hmm. And I think that, that's why our postpartum depression and anxiety rates and everything are so high, is because we do feel like we have to do it on our own. And, partners and our culture in general aren't educated on, the signs and symptoms of what those things are. And then it's those people that have gone through the trenches and that have suffered that come back the second time around and say, I refuse to have that experience. I want to have something different. And for me, that just, kills my heart, because I hate when someone calls and they say, like, I wish I would have known. And so for me and my agency, that's why we are so huge on educating medical professionals on what it is that we do and educating the community. But we're trying to reach the people that are reaching the masses, and that comes through the hospitals and the medical providers and midwives and, large moms groups and things like that, so that they know, like, you are not alone. Like, there is support. There is free resources. There is paid resources. There, whatever it is that you need, like, we will find that resource, because you're not alone in this.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, and I get the heartbreak, because I hear it too when folks call and they'll say, I just realized after starting to work with a counselor that I've been suffering from postpartum, and my baby's 3 or my baby's 2.5, and I even get chills thinking about it. And now it's taken such a toll on my marriage. I need help, and it's like, oh gosh, that's so many years of just intense isolation. But it's interesting. I actually talked with my OB the other day. And I was asking her, like, so, she's with Kaiser, so the services look a little bit different. And I asked, like, so where do you refer couples to? Like, when they're coming in and they're needing support, like the wife is coming in or the woman, and they need support, like, where do you refer them to? Because I know Kaiser traditionally does not do a lot of couples work. And she goes, oh, I don't know. I don't tend to get that question. And I was really, I know you guys can't see Lindsay's eyes right now, but she just had big surprise eyes. And so I was really blown away by that, because I love my OB. She's absolutely fantastic. I can't say enough good things about her. So I don't know if it's the way that I phrased the question. If I phrased it like, where do they go outside of Kaiser for support? And she was hearing it like, well, they just go and call Kaiser and they have therapists at Kaiser. So I'm hoping that's what it was. But I was so taken aback. I didn't even know how to follow up, because I thought, whoa, like, as an OB, like, you're saying that you don't get that question. And so to me, that speaks exactly what you're talking about. Like, how do we get this information to the masses, to the people that are in front of the masses, which is the medical professionals, the people doing a lot of the outreach through birthing classes, through, OBs, through all that, to talk about what it's like, how you get resources, how you just start to ask the question and know where to even start asking. Because I think that piece it was shocking to me. And I thought, did I ask that the wrong way? Like, I don't understand that answer, that you don't have that happen. I'm so confused.
Yeah. But that talks about, that just talks further to the fact that we're a society that doesn't speak. on any of the negative. And so one of the things that I love, I am so passionate about couples when it comes to birth and postpartum, because I just so truly believe that through having a labor doula and doing the prenatal education classes, that like it builds such a solid foundation for that parenting experience. And so there's actually a study that's been done that I can't think of the gentleman, but I can find it. But there's been a study that's been done that women that have labor doulas present during their labor and delivery, they actually associate that success with their partner. And it's because, them as a couple are just working so organically and beautifully together, even though it's been orchestrated or, there's a support system there. And so I absolutely love that. But I believe that this tribe that we're talking about has to start at home, and it has to start with your core people. And if you're married or have a partner, like that's where it starts. But to have that, could you imagine your couples that came in and talked, like if they had education together at the beginning of their labor and delivery experience, and part of that education was, okay, these are the signs and symptoms to look for. These are the ways to support her. Like, it may not have gone 3 years. And that's so much of what we do. Like, I can't tell you how many conversations, and they like just tear my soul up when I have to approach a mom and just say, let's talk, because this is what I'm seeing, and if we could get the partners to be able to have that conversation because they see those things as well, like that would just be such a core, solid tribe that they could just build around after that. Yeah. I think that would just be fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. And like you said, being able to have the skills or the knowledge to approach mama and say, I'm concerned, and in a way that is so loving and received. And that's one thing that stood out about our conversation last time that you guys don't get to hear, but it was amazing. I'm like, now I'm teasing about it. But what stood out so much was just the consideration that you have for the dads and for, the male partner as they are, that transition for them, and that, I think we hear a lot about the bonding process for mom from the second she finds out she's pregnant, and that happens for dad too, but it's different, right? Yeah. Not right, wrong, better, worse. It's just different. And so also that transition from pregnancy into babies now here, of supporting that and having dad be such a connected part. Like you said, it starts at home. It's that foundation, and not losing that. That's a huge piece of it. And he's also going through his own transitions and a new role. I'm dad. What does that mean to me? How did I see it modeled growing up? What, all those sorts of things it is. And I love that is such a huge part of your guys' work.
Yeah. And the recognition, like you were saying, that it's different, and I think that that's something that I've learned, and it's definitely helped in my marriage as well. But recognizing part of what we do as well is talk about personalities, and just that men and women are different. Men look through blue glasses and we look through pink glasses. And that's just the reality of who we are as men and women, whatever you believe in, like, that's just the reality. And so I had to learn and recognize that my husband's processing and connection was totally different, because he, and it's different for everybody, but he moved into a role of providing. And, and so I'm like, why aren't you taking more time off work? And he's like, I need to provide for my family. Like, right. I have a new baby, And so I think that communication and having a support person in a village that isn't going to sit around and, oh yeah, why is he working? But like truly, authentically, like have a real raw conversation of like, no, he feels like he needs to provide for his family now. And so I think that that's just huge, is recognizing that dads are and partners are just as exposed to the postpartum depression and the anxiety and the pressures and the transition that we are as women.
Yes, yes. And I think I love what you just said there about, part of assembling a tribe is people that are going to challenge us, right? They're not going to just sit there and nod our head and like, oh, that jerk face, you're right. He's not doing what he needs to do, but really will challenge us to say like, well, have you had a conversation about that? Have you, brought up what your expectation is and how you're seeing it? Because most of the time, how we see it to be is so different than it actually is. And so I love that idea of that people on our tribe, they have to be able to challenge us and not just collude that everything we say is right. Those are called groupies or fans, right? Those are, that's your squad goals, not your tribe.
Totally. Yeah. That's, your squad. Yeah. I'm a mom and I'm a business owner and a wife and a sister and, and I'm all these things. Like, I don't have time in my life to, be surrounded by people that are just gonna be my fans, or my squad. Like, I want people that are gonna grow with me and push me to grow and, catch me when I'm not growing and I'm falling. Like, those are the types of people that I want in my tribe. And those are the types of people I want for the women and families that I'm working with. I want them to get to experience that level of community versus this kind of artificial surrounding of people.
Yeah. We see it play out in tabloids. We know it doesn't work just to have a bunch of fans following you around telling you that everything you do is great. You should wear underpants and not shave your head. Like, you need people to ground you there.
Yeah, totally. Oh, that's what it is though. Got nosy people that just want to know what's going on. And, truly finding your core. And what's that saying? That saying that you are like the most, the 5 people that you hang out with the most, so really making sure that you're hanging out with some good people.
Yes, absolutely. In the interview, last week's interview, I talked with some people that are kind of part of, this group of biz gals that have become, personal friends as well. But one of them mentioned in the interview that, we have friends for a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and that it's okay to kind of differentiate that sometimes that season has passed, or, sometimes the reason that we were so connected before has changed, and to give ourselves permission to also transition in amongst those friendships, that not every single one, I've known you since you were 4. So therefore at 50, we still have to be, together, even though we've got very, very different ways that we look at things.
Right. And I think that a perfect example of that is a doula. Like, we are very much, a reason, a season, for these families. And I think, often we are connected on some level just because of how great social media is, for longer periods of time. But we are very much a very real part of somebody's season, and we're there for a very unique and specific purpose. But it's natural for that to fade off and for that to kind of go. And I think that's when I kind of really realized that saying has so much truth in it, because I am so authentically purposeful when I'm working with my families, and I, am there, and there's value in that, and there's friendship, and there's connection. And then that goes away, because they're moving on to the next season. And so I just would encourage people to totally embrace that saying and just, recognize it as such a positive thing versus, questioning themselves and it being a negative thing for them.
Yeah, that's such a great highlight. I appreciate that. Okay, so another question though, in terms of thinking about kind of this idea of assembling your team and, the purpose for it, obviously you've done such a great job sharing about, but are there any things that you have noticed, whether within your own kind of walk or professionally, of things that interrupt people's ability to bring on team members, to kind of assemble that team, to create that village, to really kind of lean into that tribe? Anything that somebody listening right now, they're going, yeah, that's great for you, but not so much over here. Any obstacles or things that you've seen come up in terms of people not leaning into a tribe?
Yeah, definitely a couple of things. The first one, which we've kind of touched on a little bit, would be the judgment. Okay, so what tribe do I want to lean on? Well, none of them, because all of them, are judgmental. I think that's the biggest thing, especially with women, is just, where can I go to get connected where they're going to be like me, or, they are going to make the same decisions. We're all put in these boxes. I have to be in the crunchy mom box, or I have to be in this, when in reality, we just all have to be embracing of each other. And so I think that judgment is a huge one that stops people. And I think the other one is just the lack of resource. where is my tribe? Like, I mean, I'll talk to moms. They don't know about moms groups, like MOPS or Sierra Moms or these different groups that are around, or, just what is offered, in their communities. So I would say like access and the judgment are like the two things that I think are the things that stop people from finding a tribe. And then the thirdly, which is I think some people just don't think they need it. And it's not until they, I don't want to say hit rock bottom because that's not really, but it's not until they're in the thick of it that they're like, oh crud, this is hard. I wish that I had somebody around, or that they're out of the thick of it and like reflecting back and realizing, oh, that would have been much easier if I had a group of women around me, or if I had, some professional resources. So I think it's, again, goes back to the culturally of, do it on your own. We have to be able to do this. And then when they realize how hard it was, or they look back and reflect and realize, where they could have filled in the gaps, maybe it wasn't super hard, but there's definitely always gaps that could be filled. Then the next time will start reaching out and trying to find those resources.
No, I love that you brought that up. It just something stood out for me, in my, kind of life. I've got, my folks live about 3 hours from us, and my in-laws live up in North Idaho. So they're multiple states away. And so a lot of the support that my sisters live about, 45 minutes to an hour. So they're closer, but they're still not call in the middle of the night, hey, come over sort of thing, And so what I have had to do out of just kind of sheer necessity is create that group of people that I can call in the middle of the night, that I can put down as emergency contact. And I know that you're there to grab my kids. And so that also has, we've got our sitter that's there the 2 days of the week that I work, and then other ones for date nights. And so I've kind of assembled this team, whether it's friends or nannies or babysitters or whatever it is, to create this support. And when I first started doing that, there was a lot of shame that I experienced because my mom, I didn't see my mom doing that, right? Like I saw her doing it all. She wasn't, but that's what the story I told myself is that she did it all, right? And she was a stay-at-home mom. And so, when it came to babysitters and things like that, she didn't have a big arsenal of people to call where I'm like, I need at least 5 deep. Like, I need babysitters 5 deep so that like, no matter what, like life can go on. And, these friends that are my emergency contacts, and, this fluidity between their home and my home. And that when my kids are there, I know that they're enforcing the same rules and keeping them safe in the same way that I would. And so that was a transition for me of being able to remove the shame that I had of thinking I had to do it the way my mom did it. And I'm so appreciative that, conversations over these last few years with my mom, is she's kind of let me know, no, I didn't, it wasn't like that. Like you saw me doing it all, but that wasn't good for me. Like I needed to ask for help more. And luckily, you had to do that out of necessity, but thankfully I'm glad that you did, because we all need that support. But it was an evolution getting there of being able to really accept help. And accept the fact that we all need it and no one's above it, no matter what we think we've seen.
Well, I think that's the standard mom guilt that we all talk about and we hear about. And it's funny that you say you're talking to your mom because, I was just talking to my mom like 2 weeks ago, and it was so funny. I made a comment about date night, and, and my mom's like, didn't you just go on a date night? I'm like, it's been like 2 weeks, I need to go on a date night with my husband. And she just made a comment on like, your dad and I never did that. And my parents are happily married, and so we started talking about it. And just like your mom, like she quote unquote did it all. Like she's a stay-at-home mom. She did it all. And that kind of added some more guilt to me. And so the fact that like your mom could say like, no, that wasn't good for me. But I think for so many, we do have the mom guilt, and then we have the family that plays into the mom guilt. Like I feel very much like I have to live up to my mother,
Right.
And I just think that mom guilt in general is something that everybody struggles with. And I've had to just let it go. I really there's no way to get past it. Like I still have moments of feeling really guilty. I still have all of that. But in general, like I feel that mom guilt, and I just go into doula mode where I'm like, take a deep breath in and just like let it go, And one of the things that stands out for me is a lot of people talk about, balance in life. And really, I don't think there is any balance. I think what it comes down to is counterbalance. And there's always going to be pieces of your life that are neglected. And that's why it's counterbalanced. There are going to be weeks in my life where my kids get, the short end of the stick because I'm growing my business. And there's going to be weeks in my life, sometimes even months or days in my life where, my business or my marriage get the short end of the stick because I'm with my kids. And so I think that's kind of what gets me through my mom guilt sometimes, is recognizing that it's not about balance, because we're never going to live a balanced life. It's about counterbalance and recognizing that, okay, right now it's okay that I'm spending more time with my kids. Like, that's okay. And, right now I've been working, like, you and I were talking about before we started, like, I'm pulling 15-hour days right now and having some mom guilt because, my littlest one is like, who are you? What's your name?
And they do such a good job of reminding us,
Yeah, just like how horrific. I know. This morning, my daughter's like, I just never see you. I'm like, I see you, but so anyways, but I get that mom guilt. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I'm providing for our family, but then like my kids are suffering. But then like this next week I have nothing, and I get to like totally indulge in my children and spend time with them and like speak into their lives and love on them in such a fulfilling way. And so just recognizing that there's counterbalance and that there's also seasons within that mom guilt, I think would be helpful to kind of alleviate some of that feeling.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's so funny. So yesterday we went to, because the NCAA tournament's going on right now. And so they had the practices for all the teams that are playing this weekend. It was open at the arena. And so you could see the teams practice, and every 40 minutes a different team came out. And so I took the kids because I'm a huge basketball fan, love March Madness. And so, I mean, they were ecstatic because it's like, it's where the Kings play and like the new arena. They were just like the most excited kids. And like, we're literally going to go watch practice. Like, they don't really know what we're doing. They just know it's really exciting. And so they're like sprinting as soon as we kind of get to the main entrance to, of the walkway to the arena. And this mom walks by. She's like, wow, you are the best mom in the world today.
Aww.
And I love that she said today, because I didn't find it insulting at all. I was like, you get me, girl. Like, you get that in this moment, I am rocking it as a mom, and that for the next 2 days, I've got a couples workshop I'm doing. So I really won't see them for the next 2 days because I'll be getting home late, getting up early, really kind of focusing my energy of taking, care of these couples that are trusting us over the next 2 days. And so I was a rock star yesterday, but the next 2 days, I guarantee it, they're going to be like, who are you again? And you haven't read to us at night, or all these things. But and my hope, and I'm there some days, I'm not there all days, I'm definitely not perfect with it, but my hope is that more days than not, that when that mom guilt comes up for me, I get to celebrate that means that I'm an exceptional mom that is connected through that thread of mom guilt to all the other moms, because mom guilt is really, when we get that twinge of it, not that we buy into it, but we get the twinge of it, it's like, okay, I'm doing something right if I'm, at least aware that there's times where I'm pulled in different directions.
Yes,
if that makes sense,
absolutely.
right? So it's like, okay, cool. Like, I'm getting pulled in different directions. I've got some mom guilt. All right, check. You're still doing a good job as a parent.
Yeah.
Move right along.
Yeah, which I'm sure you can relate. That's like, to marriage, they're like,
right.
It's when the fighting stops that, or like the discussion stop that you should be concerned.
Yes.
So I would be concerned if any of us walked around and didn't have any level of mom guilt all the time.
Right. Or ask that question, like, am I a bad mom? And I love when people ask me that question. I'm like, you can't be a bad mom if you're asking questions to make sure you're not. Like, it's like the two of them just don't go together, So
totally.
Yeah, awesome.
All the time. That's like my daily devotion in the morning. I'm like, how bad am I screwing them up today?
Absolutely. Like, hello, try being a therapist. I'm like, am I saving enough for your therapy later in life? Like, I do that all the time. And then I'm like, therapy's good for everybody. Like, even children of therapists should go to therapy. Yeah.
Totally.
I may just be helping them along the way there quicker.
Yeah, no college fund, therapy funds for everyone.
Absolutely. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, cool. So before we finish though, please share with people, first of all, how they can follow your work and kind of get in touch with what you do, especially if they're in need, they've got a loved one in their life that's in need, or they just want to learn more about what a doula is and how it can really benefit, kind of their transitions they're going through.
Yeah, so you can find us online, www.tailormadedoulas.com, and it's Taylor, like a last name, Made, and doulas is Doulas. We also have a really great Instagram and Facebook page that you can follow along at. There is a fantastic support group online that is run by tailor-made doulas. It's called the Fourth Trimester, and that's just a local group. There's a lot of local families, but also families from all over the United States, and that's just a very good reflection of who I am, just raw, real women and partners posting questions and wanting to get more information or directions, or just, have somebody tell them that they're not alone. And yeah, call me anytime, reach out. We are here, whether you want services or whether you just need somebody to talk to. Like, that's what we're here for. So, and then I'll also send you the postpartum survival guide that you can link to for everyone as well.
Fabulous.
So download that, spend time. If you have a friend pregnant, or, a daughter, or you're pregnant yourself, send it to them and, have them work through it, because it deserves the same amount of attention that we give to all of our weddings, is kind of how I put it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That's so fantastic. Well, before we end today, any, as this idea of assembling a tribe, any encouragement or words of wisdom that you would like to kind of, wrap up with in terms of as somebody is working to assemble their tribe?
I would just remind you that your tribe doesn't have to be people that agree with everything that you agree with. And I would encourage you just to begin to build it, because I have a feeling that there are a lot of people out there that just their feet are cemented. And so contact a friend, like just reach out to one person and ask what they know or what tribe they're a part of, and just get into one. But yeah, just recognize and remember, like, you don't have to be on the same page. You don't have to have the same likes and dislikes, just find a group of people in your life that you can trust yourself with and feel open enough with, that you can share this season with them.
Oh, fantastic. Lindsey, thank you so much for your time. Oh my gosh, I just enjoyed our conversation. And I'm excited to stay connected and continue to support the amazing work you do in the community. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Was I right? Is Lindsey's energy just not so infectious? And you can absolutely know why she's so passionate about her work. I think one of the things that I love about this kind of relationship or this friendship that I've built with Lindsey is that I honestly didn't know a lot about doulas and all the amazing things that they did prior to really getting to know her and learn about her work. But what I love so much is that she really has transcended the doula process of not just that labor and delivery in that moment, but the transition home and really helping to, safeguard around and provide resources around postpartum depression. So there's just such a meaningful purpose to her work. And I love that it's connected with our month of community, because there's so much of what she talks about in terms of, assembling your team and why it's just so darn important, especially when it comes to, those early years of child years and all the things that happen as we are, navigating that journey. So I'm really just grateful for her time. One thing that stood out during our interview, and it's actually something her and I spoke about in our original interview that unfortunately will not air because the sound quality was not that great, but this idea of counterbalance. And you guys know all of January was based on this idea that balance is kind of baloney. I'll say baloney, BS, right? But I love that she talks about this idea of counterbalance, and that just for me personally, it creates so much inspiration to look at my life through the lens of counterbalance, of the ways that there are always going to be pieces of my life that are neglected at different times. And that if I can really work to create a counterbalance or a shift to, creating that meaningful connection when I am present in that moment, it feels like that's just a whole lot more that I'm able to do because I'm focused on being present in the moment and countering the balance that hasn't created versus trying to always have everything in balance. So I really, really appreciate that she brought that up just fluidly and spontaneously when we were talking, because it's something that definitely stood out to me when her and I spoke last time. Also, after we stopped recording, she was sharing about, and I don't think it's in the recording, I didn't notice it when I was editing it, but she talked about this event being held here in the Sacramento area called Mommies Hiring Mommies. And it's this really, really great event that she's a part of. And I did include that link in the show notes too. So you guys be sure and check it out there so that you can see it if you're interested. It's the first weekend of May. And that's there on the website. It's got tons of great information. And then obviously I also included Lindsey's website so that you guys can follow her work at Tailor Made Doulas and just all the resources she has. She's just an amazing person to follow and to stay in touch with. So I encourage you guys to do so. And I think that's it for me. Like I said at the beginning of the recording, this is the last week of our discounted rate for the Shine Retreat. So if you're interested and you feel like, I'll get around to it, or September's so far away, I really, really encourage you guys to hop online right now and register, because we do have time flying by. I mean, it's the end of March, people. And I want to make sure that you guys are able to come and that we don't sell out the event before you buy your ticket. So thank you to all of you. I hope you're having a beautiful March, and I look forward to seeing you all in April and talking to you soon. Thank you so much for your time and for letting me into your worlds and into your hearts. It's always a pleasure. Take care, ladies. Bye.
Want to learn about the latest retreats, workshops, and speaking events hosted by Anna? Head over to herlifeunscripted.com to get in on all the juicy details. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast so we can continue to grow our amazing audience. Lastly, be sure and send in your voice feedback via the SpeakPipe app or to Anna@herlifeunscripted.com. We can't wait to hear from you.